Hello, everybody. My name is
Hi,
Shantanu Datta. Hi, everybody.
hi,
We are
Shantanu.
here to. Hello, sir. Hello, Ashish. Hello, Mr.
Hi.
Banks. We are here to celebrate the music of Louis Banks. The renewed reason for this is not that you need a reason to celebrate his music, is that there is a new book out, which is his biography written by Ashish. It's called Louis Banks, A Symphony of Love, and it's published by Rupa. And I'm indeed happy and privileged to announce that as you can see, we have both of them in our midst, and I'm going to talk to them about their life, Ashish's journey of writing this book, and of course, Mr. Louis Banks's experiences as a young boy growing up and being exposed to all kinds of music, and then finally becoming the Louis Banks in between, meeting up with a gentleman by the name of R.D. Burman, which sort of changed his life and and so that's hope it hopes to be a very riveting conversation. And welcome everybody. So nice to have you, Mr. Banks, Louis sir.
Thank
Good.
you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
And
Lovely to
Ashish,
talk to you. Yeah.
good to see you again.
Yeah, Shantanu Datta, thank you. And viewers, just let me introduce Shantanu Datta to you. That he is one of the most senior journalists in Calcutta, and he has been in his great work for last 3 decades. And in his career, he has come across so many seminal artists who have contributed in music. Start from the members of Jethro Tull, Mark Knopfler of Dire Straits, and so many others. So, in the process, he brought out a book named Calling Elvis, where I found a great interaction between Shantanuda and all these great people, starting from those men, Mark Knopfler, and all those band members of those great bands, and Carlos Santana, down to L. Subramaniam, Amit Datta, Liu Hild, and our Sir Louis Banks himself. So surely we will have a great talk together. And Sir Louis Banks has brought we two together again, Shantanu.
Yes, this is what music does. I think this is what music does. And thank you so much, Ashish, for that introduction. But today it's about your book and Louis Banks. And we will discuss briefly Louis Banks's career as a musician, the person he is, his loves, and his art. Not many know that he's an artist too. So, first question, sir, Mr. Louis Banks, to you is that how is life in quarantine treating you? Are you making new music?
Yes. I have all the time in the world now. Yeah. And that's what I'm doing, making music, getting into my studio and thinking of new tunes, doodling on the piano, practicing things. Yeah. And getting together with my son, Gino, and recording some new stuff.
Okay.
So you will hear about those new music that has been done during this quarantine time, which will be released soon.
Great, great.
Wow, that's an announcement, ladies and gentlemen. So we are going to have some good new music from Louis Banks and Gino, which is wonderful to know. And now to Ashish, tell me
Yeah.
how daunting was the task once Louis greenlighted your project. How did you sort of decide to map out your work? Because after all, Louis sir has been in music for 4 to 5 decades of Indian music. I say Indian music, but and we all know what he's done to sort of broaden our horizons. He's the one who taught us how to listen to jazz. So not for nothing
Yeah.
is he called father of Indian jazz. So tell me, how did you approach your
Yeah.
task?
Uh, yeah, to start from the very beginning, that I came in touch with Louisa in one of the R.D. Burman shows in Calcutta, and I am a part of R.D. Burman Foundation here in Calcutta. The name of the foundation is Euphony. Many of my friends and colleagues know it. So we do shows bringing all the R.D. Burman original musicians here in Calcutta. So in one of our shows, I remember that was R.D. Burman's 74th birth anniversary, and we had a great show with Louisa, along with many other musicians, including Franco Vaz, with whom Louisa must have played for so many years.
Oh, yes.
And yeah, and after that we kept in contact, and I started. I started working on him from various TV interviews and internet materials and all. And I was intrigued by his approach towards life and music. And I felt that jazz music, as it is, it's a niche music all over the world. And in India, it's even more niche. And one single person, just one single person, just like a torchbearer, just like a paladin, he kept on pursuing jazz to popularize jazz and absolutely overlooking all the materialistic aspect of it. That definitely a person who pursues jazz is a beggar. But he is, when he has been doing it, he has been doing it from the very first go. And then I felt that I should read, I should study him more. And then I contacted him through his secretary Seema. She has been a huge help to me, and sir literally obliged me, being my the first subject of my first biography. And as you asked me, Shantanu, that the daunting task, I really it felt daunting because it's very difficult to go back 4 decades of life before my birth. So I had no clue to whom to contact, where to go, and all. But surely, Sir came to be of my help, and from him only I could contact all those people who shed lights on the career. I met so many people of his life personally and professionally, and so from them I could collate all the materials, all the newspaper articles of early 70s, and gradually, it appeared to be daunting at first, but once I was into it, I enjoyed every day of it. And
Yes,
gradually, some 4 years of time, and now the book released. So this
wonderful.
is the
That's wonderful. And let me also tell viewers, Ashish is a teacher of English. He has written other academic books, and and he loves music. So, Louis, if I can take you back to your childhood a bit, growing up, tell us a little bit about your growing up years. And of course, we know your father was a musician. He's the one who really influenced you in sort of taking up musical instruments. And your mother
Yeah.
used to play Nepali songs. So you had this amazing. You grew up in a household of music, and tell us about that.
Yeah. So all this happened in Darjeeling.
Yes.
I was born in Calcutta, but then my father decided to go to Darjeeling, yeah, and spend the rest of his life in Darjeeling. And so we were all taken to Darjeeling. I was the firstborn of the family, yeah. And then we settled down in Darjeeling, and dad got a job at at the Gymkhana Club to play dance music. So he formed a group, and he started doing that. And I, of course, went to school, yeah, and eventually did college and things like that. But while all this was going on, dad was very eager to teach us all the siblings, music. So he taught us music, and all of us learned how to play. I took up to the trumpet because my dad's first instrument was the trumpet. So I started learning the trumpet, and my brother also started learning the violin. Yeah, and sisters were just singing away and all that. They were not too interested. Yeah, but I became very engrossed in music, and I began to love it really, and wanted to become very good at it. And while I was playing trumpet, Dad said, "Why don't you learn piano as well? That's the king of instruments, and that'll teach you things like harmony." Yeah, and you should learn that really, and then you can take up any instrument that you want. And this is my advice to all newcomers: actually, learn the piano. Yeah, it's a good starting point for any musician. Then you can
Okay.
branch out to any instrument that you want to play. But if you know piano, you will learn a lot of things, yeah, and help you along with your music career. So, of course, at that time, Dad was an accomplished pianist as well, besides being the top trumpeter of the day. Yeah, and he was into classical music. And at the age of, I think, he was that kind of a guy. He'll like 50 plus. He decided to do the Royal School of Music courses. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, that he's kind of dedication to music, and he did those courses. I mean, he was the only old guy in the group doing Royal School of Music from grade one onwards. Yeah, but he did it. Yeah, and he wanted me to do the same. So I also started going through the various courses of Royal School of Music, but without going to the school, Dad taught me everything. Yeah. So I went through that and was playing classical piano. At the same time, I used to play the trumpet, and then I became quite good at it. And Dad said, "Why don't you come over sometimes in the evening and join us in the band and play some trumpet?" Yeah, so I started doing that. Yeah, and that was the beginning, really, of my introduction to music. Music, yeah, the classical world, and then the popular world, the
Right,
music of dance, the dance music of the day. Yeah, and that was a good learning lesson that for me.
right, right. Amazing. Ashish, can I now request you to read a little extract from your book? You choose a
Okay.
piece. You just choose a brief, portion which best
Yeah.
describes Sir's growing up and his musical inclinations.
Yeah, from the topic, I will just take you from what Sir told last that about his growing up age, and he grew up in Darjeeling. And definitely, when I was studying on him, the chapter that I wrote on Darjeeling was very close to my heart. So I think I should read a paragraph from the Darjeeling section only.
Please do.
Here it is. Louis was an introvert. From the early morning lessons in front of that upright piano to the hymns and chorales of Catholic Church, Darjeeling nurtured his mind with its music. The highland tunes of Darjeeling and the lays of the hills offered a warm refuge for his soul. He could listen to the chiming bells from the distant Tibetan forest of oak, deodar, cedar, and pine. Somewhere afar, amid the green layers, the sound of a madal or a tappa, murali or binayo would come floating in the air. When on a lazy afternoon he would walk through the city, the tunes of bhajans would come in from the Hindu Ramakrishna Mission, the Bihari Mandir, or the Bengali Brahmo Samaj. Somewhere uphill on the way leading to the Chowk Bazaar, it wasn't unusual to spot some unnamed musicians weaving melodies over the sarangi strings or playing the damfu, shabrung, and marshunga. In fact, I saw that when I went to Darjeeling. Kids still play those things, and it's so wonderful to listen to those
Yeah,
songs that are the music. Somebody's playing Esraj, somebody's playing some local music, local instruments, some handmade
Instrument.
manual instruments, and definitely it was there when Sir was a kid in those days in Darjeeling. So definitely the influences had been diverse. I must say the diverse influence from those mountain regions. Yeah.
Absolutely, that is just lovely. This is it sort of it sort of highlights how syncretic Louise's growing up years were. So I wanted to ask you, sir. So music to you was always music, never Indian music, American music, or Western music, or was it? Of course, when you started learning, you had to sort of bifurcate them. But as a child, when you listened to music, all music was music. Is that it?
some, yeah, sort of, yeah, definitely, yeah. Uh, I used to listen to some Nepali songs as well because of my mother. She was
Right.
very fond of listening to Nepali songs,
Yes.
and then, of course, Dad introduced me to Western music. Yeah, that
Right.
became a very big influence on my life, really, and on my playing as well. on my piano playing and on my trumpet playing. Yeah, it had a great influence. I learned a lot from Dad. Dad used to write stuff for me, which I learned and managed to play with his band, the young boy. Yeah, and then uh,
Right.
to
It's
cut
it,
a yeah, long story short, yeah, uh, that day when Dad brought played me a recording of a musician, a piano player, and Dad said, "Hey, listen to this piano playing." And he played me the thing, and I was totally in awe, totally fascinated by what I was hearing, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked him, "Who are the two piano players?" He's saying, "That's only one player."
oh
And
wow.
what's his name? Yeah, because the piece that we was playing was so complex and like it couldn't be like one guy playing. And he said that's the great pianist called Oscar Peterson. That
Right.
day, my life changed. Yeah, and I wanted to play like Oscar Peterson, so I wanted to learn jazz. Yeah, yeah, and how to improvise and yeah, play like Oscar Peterson.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
that
Wow.
changed my life really from that day. Yeah,
Yes.
then I
Yes.
became a devotee of jazz, and I still am.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
You told us that he would play. Your father would play records of John Coltrane, Miles Davis, of course Oscar Peterson, and Dizzy Gillespie, and and you would listen to them, and you became devotees of all these musicians, and and
absolutely.
and uh, you were a trumpeter, and you don't sort of play that instrument publicly anymore. So tell us, before I move on to Dizzy, I wanted to ask you, tell us something about Miles. I mean, I mean, his music. You know, I was just listening to Miles the other day, and it just sounded so modern, so new, so today. And but that was a piece of music which he had recorded sometime in the 70s. So tell us tell me a little bit about Miles Davis and how we can appreciate him more.
Oh, Miles Davis, yeah, my favorite trumpet player, really, absolutely. And the music, it's my favorite music in jazz, really, because there's
Okay,
so much melodic depth in the playing. Yeah,
I see.
uh, people think that jazz is very complicated, and you can't understand what the guys are playing. These people should listen to Miles Davis. Yeah,
Right, right.
yeah, and they'll see the
Absolutely.
beauty of jazz. Yeah, and
Absolutely.
so he's definitely one of my big influences. Yeah,
Mhm. Hmm.
to create spaces in music, in your
Okay.
improvisation. Yeah, and to create simple lines that mean a lot.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So Miles was a master of that, absolute master of that.
Absolutely.
He had this
Absolutely.
lyrical, yeah, sense that yeah, few people have really, and of course, that doesn't mean that Miles couldn't play the complicated stuff. He could, and he played when he heard Dizzy Gillespie, yeah, yeah,
Right.
and saw the hundreds of notes happening at lightning speed in the improvisations. He got inspired by that, and he started playing things like what Dizzy used to play. I've heard some of those recordings. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
But then he
Absolutely.
wanted to be his own man, the melodic sense. Yeah.
Okay.
The spaces in between the music. Yeah. He wanted to learn all that. Yeah. And convey all that to these listeners. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's the beauty of the music of Miles Davis, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so well put. That's so well put. And since you mentioned Dizzy, I have to sort of, I love to tell this story to everybody. Is that I was there when you played with Dizzy in Calcutta, and
Wow.
it was and
Great.
it was
That's nice.
one one of the most
That's
riveting, and the music is sort of embedded in my brain and my heart. It is just amazing. You
wow.
were at the DI, Dalhousie Institute, and you played. And how, ladies and gentlemen, Dizzy and Louis Banks came together. We had discussed this story in another outing, which we are not going to repeat this time. But for that, you will have to read Ashis's book. But I wanted to ask you that tour of India, which Dizzy, you, and his bassist and drummer did. What were your key learnings? I mean, you played with him. You were you were with him. You were touring with him, and you spent a lot of time with him. And he's this. We have this image of Dizzy as a funny man and jovial, always joking. But tell us what it was when you all played together.
He was that also, a funny man and a joker. Yeah, absolutely. Uh, but when he played the
Yes,
trumpet, yeah,
yes,
there was such a lot of seriousness and thought that went into his playing, and the complexity of his notes. Yeah, the harmonies was incredible. Yeah, and very inspiring. Absolutely. I was, I think, really thank my lucky stars that I happened to be in America at a time when Dizzy was there, and
right,
I just happened to go to the club where he was playing,
absolutely.
and I heard him play, and then we went up with my friend to the green room when he took a break, and my friend introduced me to him as, this is Louis Banks. He's from Calcutta. He's an Indian, and he plays jazz. And Dizzy was like, he looked at me and said, "In India, you play jazz?" He couldn't believe it, actually. Yeah. I said, "We do." Yeah. And that was that, and the small talk and all that. And then we came down, and he came down for the second session. And the first thing that he did was, I believe we have a jazz pianist from India in the house. I would like him to come up and play with me. Literally, my knees were knocking. My heart started beating fast. I couldn't believe that Dizzy had called me to play with him. And what would I play? I mean, my heart was thumping. Absolutely. But I took up courage and I went, and he called up a tune, uh, which I knew,
Stella by
happened to know.
Starlight. Stella by
Stella by,
Stella by
Starlight.
Starlight.
Yes.
Stella by Starlight, which fortunately I knew it was really God sent for me. And I played that with him, and he would nod at my solo, and uh, that was my first introduction with Dizzy. It's unbelievable. I mean, I can't forget that.
Yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable.
Absolutely. And
Somebody I used to idolize and be in awe of, and I was sitting there at the piano and with him on stage.
right.
It was incredible.
Not just that, you had albums of his in his house, and you had which were played on the record player as a child. You heard him, and
Yes.
then now here you were playing with him. Yes, I remember the solo. You talk about the solo in the DI concert. Uh, you did a solo piece, and Dizzy was there, leaned on the piano, and he heard the entire thing, and then he turned at us, the audience, and sort of asked us to clap. I mean, that was a moment. That was a moment that sort of embedded
Wow.
in my. It's an amazing moment. We were just blown away. And you were one of us, and so that was just amazing. That here was one of our pianists playing with the great master, and the master applauding him. It was just incredible. All of those
Yeah.
moments, incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, to move on a bit. Before that, Ashish, you had a question about fusion. You had, since Louis has
Yeah.
dealt with all kinds of music, more so Indian as well as
Correct.
Western and jazz.
Correct.
So, you wanted to ask him.
Uh, yeah, so when I was studying on Sir and when I was observing all those music from YouTube, I found that Indo jazz fusion that was absolutely exhilarating stuff. So there are very few clips available of Silk and Sangam. Sangam, there is no live clip because I don't think there was any recording available of Sangam. There are a few clips of Silk definitely in YouTube, and it's literally absolutely fascinating that two different genres of music, that in Indian classical music and the jazz music, and laymen like us who are not quite acquainted with Indian classical music and neither with jazz music, but when we are listening they two together, fusing together, blending together, the ultimate effect that it comes, that is absolutely fascinating. Sir, I want to listen to something about those Sangam days, because not many people know of that Sangam days of the present generation.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, that was my introduction to Indian music, and before that, I was not listening to Indian music. I was busy playing jazz, the contemporary jazz of the day. Yeah, and playing dance music in a jazz way, playing pop music in a jazz way. That was my life. But I never touched on Indian music at all until I heard this band that came from the south, and it was Ramamani with her musicians, and I couldn't believe what I heard. Her improvisations, so fascinating, and it it struck me to ask her to try something using that kind of Indian improvisations in jazz. And I asked her, would you be willing to try some experiments with me? Because I love your singing, I love your how you improvise, and I think it'll work very well with jazz because jazz is it is the most democratic music in the world. So flexible, it can attach itself to any kinds of music. So I think we can come up with something very nice and new. She at once said yes, and that was the beginning of my writing the music of Sangam. Yeah, and then eventually touring Europe with the band.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I think a lot many people believe that Sangam was the epitome of Indo jazz fusion. There was time before Sangam, before after, but nothing like Sangam. A lot many
Right.
people, a lot many
Absolutely.
jazz critics believe that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah,
To me
It's kind of a
also,
milestone. It's a milestone. You
it
absolutely.
was one of the best fusion bands that I played with. Yeah, really. Yeah. The music that we made, it was amazing. Yeah. Because these musicians were amazing. The percussion section, yeah, with uh, five musicians from the south and Ramani, they were incredible. And the way they blended with my kind of jazz, yeah, modern jazz, yeah, and we fused all the classical scales. And from that moment, I developed a style of writing fusion music where I could incorporate jazz with fusion music, with Indian classical, without keeping both the streams pure. I mean, when the Ramamani sang her solos, it was pure Carnatic solos. And when I played my solos, it was pure jazz. So these two streams, I did not want to, I didn't want Ramamani to sing jazz phrases. Yeah. So I still believe in that. And whatever music I write, I try to keep that, these two sections together and then apart.
in the
Yeah.
past.
Yeah. So that people who love jazz will listen to my solos and harmonies and enjoy it, and people who love Carnatic improvisations listen to Ramamani. So both streams are pure. Yeah.
Right. Right.
This is how I
That's
write my fusion music.
okay. That's very interesting and explains a lot to us. Now I wanted to ask Ashish first and then Louise about R.D. Burman. That's the man who brought
Uh,
him, brought you two together. So, Ashish,
Absolutely.
briefly tell us about your what you love about RD. I mean, we love RD. I like
CCC.
particular type of songs,
Yeah,
and what is your
this I simply can't bring all my liking for R.D. Burman in this remaining half an hour. So
right?
yeah, so but yes, simply even what I feel that uh, before R.D. Burman, all the musicians they were great. Well, they were great. They carried the tradition before them into their music and definitely made it modern. What R.D. Burman did, he set a different music altogether. This I may be absolutely I may be a huge fan. Fan is a very small word. So according to me, before R.D. Burman, they carried the Indian tradition and made it modern. Fine, okay. But R.D. Burman brought a new music in Hindi film music, and but see, he was the visionary, but his visions needed to be implemented. So somebody had to take it forward. Somebody had to give it a shape. Men like Louis Banks gave those a shape. So in
Right.
that way, so without Manohari Singh, without Bashudev Chaudhary, all these legendary people and musicians and the arrangers, these things would not have been done. So that was there in the head of R.D. Burman. Men like Louis Banks, musicians like Louis Banks, they
Yes.
literally brought it to our room, to our CDs and cassettes and vinyls.
Right.
So, in that way, they are the medium. Men like musicians like Louis Banks and others, they are the medium through whom we can reach up to R.D.
Yes.
Burman.
Yes. Yes. So
So, definitely,
RD was the vision, and they was the visionary, and they Louis Banks and his co-musicians played it out. They sort of made it
correct,
real for us. So, Louis,
correct.
what would you list as some of the greatest things that you learned from RD while working with him?
Of course, his beautiful melodic sense. Yeah.
Okay.
The
Okay.
beautiful melodies that he created fascinated me. All the tunes that he projected during that time were so melodious and so listenable. That's why I think he became one of the most popular music directors, really. And today,
Okay.
he is the most copied music director. There are
Yeah,
tons and tons of re recording and remixes,
Yes.
which are mostly R.D. Burman music. Yeah. So his music had that quality in it. And
Okay.
for me, uh, he was ahead of his times like that,
Right.
RD. Yeah.
Right. Right.
And he would always think of new ideas. He would come to the studio, uh, almost a kind of a blank mind,
okay,
and with the song, the bare song, outline of the song, and sit up there uh, at his harmonium and with his singers. But while that happened, while they explored the song as it is original, he was thinking of a lot of different ideas to complement this song, which
Okay.
were very different and very modern for that age. Yeah, and for that kind of music that Bollywood produced those days. Yeah, and he had a great sense of sound and rhythmic sound, yeah, melodic sound, because he listened to a lot of different music from all around the world. Yeah. And he was always introducing different things right there on the studio and changing the arrangement. Yeah. And changing the sound of the arrangement. Yeah. So I really marveled at that, at his ability to do that. And he allowed me so much freedom to play. I mean, he said, Louis, play an introduction to this song. And he didn't tell me what to play. He said, you play. Yeah. So
Okay.
that kind of freedom he gave me. Yeah. And I mean, I'm really fortunate to have worked with him. Yeah.
Right.
And I learned a
Did
lot,
you
learned a lot about.
did you feel challenged in any way in the sense when he would come up with a bear song and he'd say, "Okay, Louis, play"? Would you worry or would you be a bit
I,
nervous saying that, or would you
no, no,
just sort of go with the flow and play?
I would go with the flow, really, really. and I
Okay.
knew that I had to disconnect with my idea of jazz playing piano and go get into this melodic way of playing piano,
Lovely.
which I did. Yeah, and so that you won't hear me play any jazz with R.D. Burman songs. It's more classically oriented piano playing, yeah, with a lot of runs and yeah, uh, melodies, and because that sort of fitted the arrangement of the song.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, an incredible musician. I mean, if we could actually have a separate program with Sir Louis sir and you and just discussing RT's music.
Correct,
You know,
correct.
maybe we should
Wish,
do
I
that. We
wish.
should just do that sometimes.
Sure.
Coming back to your book, Ashish, there's a bit which sort of has stayed with me. One abiding image that has stayed with me is that it was one of those evenings where Louis and his bands had stepped out of Trinkas and were waiting outside. Why? Because the
Can I
lights had
correct?
gone.
Can I
Yes,
correct you on that?
yes,
Stepped
please.
out of Blue Fox.
Blue
Blue
Fox,
Fox.
absolutely. My mistake. So you all were outside waiting. So the band was outside, and one would wonder why are they outside? That's because the power went off, and those were the days of load shedding. So in a
Correct.
sense, that image sort of told me was the beginning of the decline of Calcutta as the city of music and entertainment. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
it's quite sad to read that part, and Louis, tell us, what does Calcutta mean to you today? After all these years, what does the city mean to you?
Oh, it's the friendliest city in the world. Yeah.
Yeah,
And yeah, people love music. Yeah. And they the way they received my music in Calcutta was incredible. Yeah. I just loved that how they used to come to Blue Fox to listen to us play this different kind of pop, which was mixed with jazz. Yeah, because I was always all the time doing that. Yeah, because I had musicians in my band that were amazing. People like Braz Gonzalez, Pam Crane, Donald Seigel, and others, Carlton Kitto.
Carlton Keto, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was amazing, amazing band who could play anything. The musicians could play anything. So we really changed pop music around. Yeah. And
Yes.
people just danced to it. Yeah. They got on the floor and danced to it. And some just listened to the music. So we had a great audience. And I can never forget this audience in Calcutta. Yeah. The most receptive audience for music.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And of
So
course, it was the city I was born in.
right,
Yeah.
right. So the next obvious question: do we get to see more of you in our city when things open up?
I would love to come, really. And I will. I promise
And
Okay.
you that.
sir, Shantanu, I'm just disturbing you.
Not at all.
Sir, there is one bar you don't know. There is one bar in Central Avenue. It was there way back. The name of the bar is Broadway, and Broadway is bringing all the musicians again for the live show on Sundays. So it is again happening in Calcutta. We do wish
Oh,
you, and remember, sir, the last time we met here in RCTC, where you played that New Year Eve show, and we were planning to have Brass Gonzalez as well with you. That if that
uh,
happens, that you two here back again in Calcutta, maybe for one single evening, that would be great to recreate that old
oh,
70s
I'd
70
love
evening.
to. I'd love to. I'd love to. I hope
So good.
we can do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I hope
and
we can
soon,
do it.
and
I
soon.
hope we
Yeah.
can do it. Yes, I hope we can do it. Okay, so I think do we sort of take some questions from our viewers now? I think we've run out of our time. Although I had a few more questions for.
Yeah, Chandra, before, yeah, definitely we'll look
Yeah.
for their questions, but sometime on that advertisement things also.
Yes. So before we sort of, oh wow, from trumpet to piano, wow, what a journey. Advice to newcomers: learn the piano. Yes, obviously, yes, learn the piano.
Yes,
But then
absolutely. In
absolutely.
capitals, learn the piano.
Learn the piano. That's all young musicians watching this show That's the line you should remember. Learn the piano. Okay, that's wonderful. Sir, we've discussed music, we've discussed film music, and we've discussed serious music. Now, I want to ask you a little bit about jingles and advertisements. It's a whole new ball game, and you have, you've done so many of them. Literally, I mean, I think everyone in India has heard the jingles. Some may not know they were by you, but if you play the jingles, they'll
True.
hum the tune. So, so it's just quite amazing, and it was so nice that just the other day we had the Cadbury ad redone. The
Yeah.
one where this girl comes and goes into the field, but they've redone the ad with the roles reversed. Now you have a boy coming into a field of women cricketers and cheering them on. So it's just wonderful.
Yes, I
So
saw the ad. Yeah,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
Piyush Pandey sent me the ad, and
okay,
it brought back so many memories for me. Yeah,
yes,
because among all my jingles, that's one of my most favorite jingle, and that
okay,
jingle gave me the best composer award. It
okay.
gave the best singer award to Shankar, and it gave the
Wow.
best singer award to Gary Lawyer, who sang the English version. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
and
Wow.
yeah, it was the jingle of the year, and
I see.
I don't know, people still love it. I'm really
Yes,
thankful for
yes.
that.
It's
Yes.
Yes.
quite something. So I wanted to
That is.
ask you. So how is it different composing a jingle and composing a full-fledged piece? Is it any different? Are the challenges the same, or is it a totally new
No,
thinking?
no,
How do you do it?
it's totally new thinking because of the time frame.
Okay.
Whatever you're thinking, whenever I wrote music, I never thought of the time.
Right.
I could take any amount of time to complete a piece of music, write the melody, write the bridge section, make an ending and stuff. But in jingles, you have 30 seconds or 20 seconds to write a kind of a piece that sounds complete.
Okay.
So that's the challenge.
Right.
And to make
Right.
it interesting, to make it singable, that people remember it, and this when even with somebody, a woman in the kitchen hears the jingle in the living room and says, "Hey, yes, that's the Cadbury jingle." Things
Okay.
like
Yeah,
that.
that was part of our growing up. That
It
was
was
part
Yeah,
of our
absolutely
growing up. Those images. Yeah, the lady coming out of that
the
gallery,
stadium
and he was
gallery.
gyrating and moving towards the batsman, and the batsman is little coy. He's hiding his face, and the background that music is going on. That is
uh,
part of our youthful sensibility, with which the music with which you grew up. And look, there was one another jingle, Hamara Bajaj jingle.
Yes.
Kal that was
yes, yes.
immortal. Those tunes were immortal, right?
There's
And
so
so, what
Yes.
many.
about Britannia jingle? What about
Right.
Britannia jingle?
Yeah, ting, 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 ting.
Yes.
It was,
Absolutely.
it's become the
I
most
mean,
memorable four notes in the world of
ever.
music.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
and
So,
yeah, and till now, I think the latest count is I've done about over 15,000 jingles.
my God, amazing. 15,000. That's quite a number.
It's a record, yeah.
It's a record. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's a
But
record.
how did I get into jingles?
Yes.
That's a good story.
Okay.
Yes.
So at that
Are you going
time,
to
I
tell us
was
about it? Are you going to
little
tell us
bit,
about it?
little
Okay.
bit, yeah. I was with Pancham, of course, yeah, playing his music. And when one fine day somebody comes, and he's happened to be from Calcutta, he said, Louis, I'm in Bombay now and I do advertising and I'm making a film and I thought maybe you could do the music for it. I said, "Oh God, jingle music. I don't know. I've never made jingle music." He said, "No, no, we'll bring you the film and then you just work it out." I just took up some courage and said, "Okay, why not? Let me try it." Yes. So after R.D. Burman's recording in the night, we stayed back I stayed back, and in that same hall, these advertising guys came with their film, and they showed me the film, and they said, "This is the film." What is that sound?
The conch shell.
That is conch shell.
Conch
Somebody's
shell. Somebody.
blowing a
Oh,
conch shell. Yeah.
oh, that's a good sign.
It's an evening prayer time. Usually in Calcutta houses, you'll have the
Yes,
little evening
absolutely.
prayers. Yes,
Mm.
and people blow the
Uh,
conch shell. Yes.
yeah, and so saying you just have to write a tune that who Sharon Prabhakar, I think, sang the song,
Okay.
Four
and
square. It's a four square.
yeah, four square. Yeah, the product was four square, and write a nice melody for this uh, jingle, and that was my first jingle, and I wrote
Okay.
it. And the challenge was to write something that would fit in 20 seconds and 30 seconds. So I managed to do it, write short pieces and all that, and try to make it very, very catchy. And that was the beginning of my career in jingle making. And
Wow.
that was the first jingle, okay. And then, of course, I was with R.D. Burman. So, I mean, I carried on with R.D. Burman. Then some other offers came to me for advertising work, and it just snowballed into something so big that I had to leave film music and concentrate on jingles.
I see.
Yeah, and it was very lucrative. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and my wife could go and do a lot of shopping with whatever I earned. Yeah, yeah, advertising was. I mean,
Yeah.
people that make a lot of money in advertising. So I started making money in advertising, and but while doing all this, uh, I kept my jazz thing alive,
Okay.
and I used to do night work, yeah, with a band of mine. Yeah, so my life was like in the day, either do R.D. Burman or do a jingle and come back home, change into uh, evening clothes with tie and suit and all that, and go and play in the nightclub.
Wow.
That was my routine every day.
Right.
So life and music were divided like that for me, and great learning experience. And I started becoming very good at writing these small tunes. Yeah, that would fit in those uh, restricted time of 20-second, 30-second, and all that.
Right. Right.
So I got a lot of offers. Yeah, and then suddenly, before I knew it, they used to call me, "Here's the Jingle King," and all that.
Right. Jingle King.
Jingle King. I became the
The
Jingle
Jingle
King.
King. Louis Banks, the Jingle King.
Correct.
That's nice. Right. Yeah. It's quite something. I mean, if you just look at it from a distance, that you have a jazz musician, wherein jazz, the cornerstone of jazz is improvisation, and where time is not meant to be a restriction. There isn't meant to be anything called time in a jazz composition.
Absolutely.
Whereas you, working in that, would also excel in a certain type of music where time was of utmost essence. It's quite something. It's quite something. I guess that's your genius. I guess that's your genius. So, can we now open our discussion to sort of for questions? Anyone in the audience would like to sort of ask Sir anything, and please fire away, and we will try and sort of
So
answer.
there, I've got this question. Great to see the legend. How do you see the future of fusion music?
Yes.
The future of music is going to be fusion music, according to me. Really, that's the future. Yeah, but that's the way people will fuse different elements of different styles of music. Yeah, be it Indian classical or being or any music from any culture around the world, and that will be the new music of the future, really,
Okay.
because we've done a lot of traditional music of different styles and eras. We've done all that. Now the way to go is fusion music.
Okay. So, sir, do you think then there will be a sort of merging of genres? There could
Yes,
be.
there's absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's already happening and it'll
Mhm.
happen. Yeah, a lot of young musicians are coming up, exceptionally talented musicians, and they're
Okay.
exploring this.
Right. There you have it. So fusion
And
music is the way to be.
if you remember, sir, just before few months, one harmonium player with whom you were having a project, a fusion, jazz fusion with a harmonium player.
Oh, yes. What's his name?
I also forgot the name of the person, but it's apparently two
Gino?
absolutely different.
Uh,
Yeah.
Great harmonium player. God, what's his name? It'll come to me. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
yeah.
So
So,
Natalie Sharma wants to ask you, when are we going to hear your next album? Natalie Sharma. When are we going to hear your next album?
keep checking new, everything that is coming out new in YouTube.
Okay.
That's where it's going to come out first on YouTube.
Okay.
The album is going to be Standards, my second volume of Standards, and my uh, other volumes of fusion music, of course, definitely,
Good. Okay.
with different musicians.
So
Yeah.
now we have a second volume, which is wonderful. When we spoke, sir, I remember when I was speaking to you, you were in the midst of doing your first album of standards. Yes, you are doing
Yes.
that. Right. That's great news.
Yes.
Okay. Pancham was a magician. This is Ashutosh Kumar Thakur asking. Pancham was a magician. It is indeed heartening to hear the anecdotes by Louis Banks about him. Okay, yes, of course. I mean, I'm sure, Ashutosh, there are many more lovely anecdotes.
Absolutely.
And read Ashish's book, and you will get a few more of those. So, anyone has anything else to ask? Any more questions? Lovely, looking forward to it. Natalie Sharma asking, what is the name of your YouTube channel? Well,
No, just YouTube channel. Just type in Louis Bang official. Louis Banks
okay.
official.
Yes, it's very interesting. You have Louis Banks on your panel, and then we don't have to do anything. Right. Anyone else? Yeah. Okay. Then, since I don't think there are many questions, if they come, we will interrupt. And since we have some time, I wanted to ask Louis Bang. This is a personal thing. How explain to us improvisation. You're a painter. You have many colors to choose from, and you when you paint, you
I
choose
pay.
from
I
many
paint.
colors.
I paint like a
Yeah,
jazz
yeah.
musician. Yeah.
Right, that's it. So tell us the connection. Tell us about it. Tell us about improvisation.
Well, uh, you'll be surprised to know that somebody said, and it's true, that there is no wrong note in jazz. There is no such thing as a wrong note. Yeah, everything is right, and because it depends on you how you make it right. But
Okay.
improvisation is taking a melody pattern with the harmonies, sometimes changing the harmonies, and then using that as a base to, like, just flow. Let your mind just flow and create melody after melody after melody after melody. Yeah, it's a series of melodies. Yeah, some that you may be able to sing, some you will not be able to sing because there's complexity also, which is very important in jazz. And uh, it's something that, I mean, it's my kind of music, absolutely.
Right.
And yeah, and I just love it. And I love the freedom it gives me. Uh, and of course, you have to be careful because too much freedom is not good. Yeah, and but I have this. I believe in the lyrical sense of music, in the melodic sense of music. I'm a great believer in that. So I keep that kind of intact even in my improvisations.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and
Right.
just don't play complex things just for the sake of complexity. Yeah,
So it's just correct me if I'm wrong. It's while you're playing, while you're improvising, you are actually hearing those notes in your head and you are playing them. And
that's
sometimes you're is it that your hands are sometimes overtaking what you're thinking, or is it the mind that is going faster?
absolutely the hands are overtaking.
I see.
Yeah, yeah. And one phrase leads to another, and other
Right.
idea just came in and it just flows. Yeah. And your mind is sometimes just blank, or your mind is following the harmonic pattern. That's very important. Yeah.
Right. Right.
That's very important. Yeah. Otherwise, you can lose yourself and go into no man's land and
Correct.
have no connection with the melody that you were playing.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so keeping all that in mind, the harmony of the piece in mind, you then take off. Absolutely
Okay.
take off. Yeah, and it depends uh, on what you have learned in music, what you have practiced. Yeah, all that just comes out of your fingers.
Right. Right. It's like an ocean, sailing in the ocean.
Absolutely.
Sailing in the
Yeah,
ocean. Just just goes on and on.
just goes on and on.
Amazing. Yes, there is a question from Joita Ghosh. Louis, sir, amazing session. May I please know which is your favorite chapter from your biography? Which chapter you like the most and why?
Oh God. Woo! I can't even remember now. Uh,
Maybe the last chapter, sir, that I wrote on your family.
yes, that is one of my favorite. Yeah, that is one of my favorite chapters where Ashis wrote about my family. Yes, a family which I love. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my children, my wife. Yeah,
Okay.
yes, that. Yeah, the way you've described them, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Thank you for writing this, Ashish.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Right.
you very much for writing
Oh,
this.
thank you, sir. It's my pleasure, sir. It's my pleasure. Of course, it's my pleasure.
And
Uh,
whoever has read the book has enjoyed the book tremendously, and they loved the way you described everything. Yeah, yeah, it's the most descriptive writing of a book. Yeah,
Thank you,
and
sir.
the way it flows from my
Thank you, sir.
childhood to today. Yeah,
well done,
it's
Ashish. Well done.
yeah,
Thank you.
well done,
Thank you. Thank you.
absolutely well done. It's amazing. Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely well done. I want to read a favorite line of one of the lines that I loved in the book, where Louise is saying, and there is a lesson which I learned in that, and I think it's a lesson for all of us. Louis says in the book, in towards the end, I don't remember the number of the chapter. I only get angry with myself when I fail. I keep advising all my friends and the members of the family about the negativity of this destructive emotion called anger. I am a strong believer in love, calmness, morality, compassion, and patience. I greatly believe in the teachings of the Buddha. I think
that that's me.
that's you. Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
That's you.
If you
That's
come to
you.
my house, the first thing that will strike you, there are so many images of Buddha in the house, which are depicted in my paintings as well as the artifacts that we collect. It's full of Buddhas.
yes.
Yeah, because it brings me a lot of peace. Yeah.
You can never be
That's
an
you.
angry musician, right, sir? One can never
I,
be an
I
angry musician, right?
I don't know, but I don't have that quality that they call anger.
So I think that's a wonderful note to sort of end today's discussion with. And I think it was a lovely session, sir. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Lisa.
Lovely talking to
Thank
you.
you,
Lovely,
Ashish.
Shantanu. Thank you so much,
yeah, yeah.
Thank
Ashish.
you.
Thank you once again
Thanks
for
to you,
writing the
sir.
book.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank you,
And
sir.
before I
Thank you. It's a
sign out,
great
you
talking to
have
you.
made me immortal.
before I sign out, I just wanted to sort of congratulate Ashish, and of course, on behalf of everyone at Rupa, Oxford, and everyone, Kalinga Lit Fest, especially for organizing this, and for hosting us. So please do get a copy of the book and read it and enjoy Mr. Louis Banks's music. And Sir Louis Banks, may you continue to make music and give the world joy. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you,
Before
sir.
I forget, only yesterday uh, a friend of mine came and she said, "I've just finished reading your book and I love it."
Wow.
And she said it should be made into a movie.
Oh, God.
Wow.
I said, "Wow, really?"
That would be something.
Great.
That's a lovely idea. Yes, why not? Absolutely. There'll be so much of music in it. It'll be wonderful.
Wow.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Louis Banks soundtrack. The Louis Banks soundtrack of Louis Banks's life. That's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be great. That's a lovely note to end today's discussion. Thank you so much, everybody, for
Thank you,
joining.
sir.
And thank
Thank you
you
so
very
much,
much,
Shantanu.
Kalinga Lit Fest. Bye bye. Bhava
Thank you.
Samvad.
Bye bye.
Thank you.